Ladies and gentlemen, it has happened. The New York Jets have officially fired head coach Robert Saleh, and it was not expected following their Week 5 23-17 loss to the undefeated Minnesota Vikings. Who better to bring on to break down really the crazy day and all the news? The New York Jets beat reporter for the New York Daily News, Mr. Antwan Staley. It's a Tuesday edition of NY Flight Jets Talk, and we are live.
Jets, Jets, let's go.
Jets wide receiver Wesley Walker. Wesley, how you doing today? ESPN writer Mr. Rich Samini, Jets reporter for The Athletic, Mr. Zach Rosenblatt, Hall of Famer and Jets legend Mr. Marty Lyons.
Your host, Connor Law.
Welcome in everyone. We are here on a Tuesday edition of NY Flight Jets Talk, and it has happened. Robert Saleh has been fired. Woody Johnson announcing the news earlier this morning. A lot of players were blindsided. We're going to get right into it. Before we do so, make sure everyone smashes that like button and you are subscribed to the channel. Say what's up. If you are on the chat, I already see a few people. Daniel Berry Sports Highlights, good to see you. And Anthony Carton, thank you. I greatly appreciate it. The son of the great Craig Carton, who was just on the show not too long ago. We do appreciate the support. So like I said, make sure you smash that like button and you are subscribed to the channel. Submit all your questions in the chat and we will be sure to answer them. But let's bring on our guest, Mr. Antwan Staley of the New York Daily News. And Antwan, I know we were talking off air. You said you weren't expecting the news. Before we get into all that, though, how you doing?
Surprisingly awake right now, but yes, I'm doing well. I'm doing fine.
It is great to have you on. So happy, get you on right here, right now, with all this news occurring. We're gonna get right into it. So obviously, you look at Robert Saleh, his numbers with the Jets, not pretty. .351 winning percentage over three seasons and 5 weeks for Saleh. That ranks 183rd out of 201 coaches in NFL history with at least 50 games coach. We've seen now week in and week out, Antwan, just this undisciplined play, all these penalties. Now some fans are calling for the heads of Nathaniel Hackett and Keith Carter. Before we get into, even the possibility of other coaches being fired, what is your initial reaction to this move?
At the time, I was very surprised because I was thinking it'd be a very easy day. The
Yep.
players were supposed to talk to the media via Zoom, and I was playing video games at the time. But I got the news via text message. I was like, "Wow, okay. Well, I guess I'm gonna be working all day." So
Yep.
basically, yeah, it was. It's been a crazy day, but yeah, I definitely didn't expect it. I wrote an article on Monday stating that why Robert Saleh
Mm-mm.
shouldn't be fired, and made the case there why it really wouldn't benefit the Jets to do so. But the fact remains that Woody Johnson felt like a move had to be made, and they made the move, and we'll see how it goes. But I think Ulbrich is a guy that's going to be a head coach in this league some at some point. I didn't think it'd be now. With the circumstances that
Yes.
have ensued, but we'll see if the Jets have a bit of jolt of energy for a big game, like a game that I think they really have to win on Monday. Otherwise, then I think this thing could potentially snowball and spiral out of control.
Oh, and absolutely. Jeff Ulbrich is someone we've seen him really evolve as a top defensive coordinator in this league over the past few years. Jim Nagy, the founder and owner of the Senior Bowl, compared him to Dan Campbell, and it's so funny he said that because
Yes.
that's something I've been thinking for so long. You look at Ulbrich; he just seems like a leader of men, someone who's going to get the players going. And something I observed from Robert Saleh, I feel like he wanted to be more of the players' coach. He wanted to tend more to the players, be a bit more light. You can correct me if I'm wrong here, Antwan, as you're in the building almost every single day. What do you think the main difference is right now between Saleh and Ulbrich? Is it the leader of men thing? Is it trying to lean more towards the players? And also, do you think there's going to be a culture change, like really quick with Ulbrich taking over? Do you expect it, or do you expect it to be something similar with Saleh, where it's pretty lenient?
I think where you brought up Dan Campbell, I actually had a
Yeah.
chance to cover him when he was the interim coach in a
Yes.
very similar situation in Miami. And yeah, I think the Dolphins had a bit of a energy boost there. They end up winning two of those games. The first two games, they beat the Texans and the Titans, if I'm not mistaken. And then they end up slumping to a 6-10 record that year in 2015. Yeah, I think the difference between you got a guy like Robert Saleh and Jeff Ulbrich is Ulbrich has been a player in the league. He understands, what the players are going through there, and just kind of can have that special bond, whether it be offensive, defensive players, and just have a understanding of what they go through too. So I think just having that experience as a former player, and now he's turned into a coach there, he has a certain bit of understanding that maybe Saleh didn't have with the players, and a certain connect. As far as a culture, it's hard to change a culture just kind of overnight. I mean, it kind of comes with time too. I mean, it may come in like 2-3 weeks from now. Maybe it comes like, later on this season, but I don't know if it's going to happen like overnight, because still the same problems for the Jets remain. They still have questions on the offensive line. Although I think if they get Morgan Moses back, that certainly will help a little bit. They still can't run the football. Maybe, having Moses there might help a little bit there. And still Aaron Rodgers is still a little banged up too. And then there's still questions about, can he be the player that I think the Jets traded for, or at least thought they were getting when they traded for him.
Now, after Saleh was officially fired, he left the building. He spoke to Fox Sports' Jay Glazer, and he told him he was completely blindsided by the move. Jordan Schultz of Bleacher Report later reported that Aaron Rodgers was supposedly blindsided by the move, and that's really interesting, Antwan, because Aaron Rodgers really seems to have a lot of say in what happens in this organization. Are you buying that report, or do you think Aaron Rodgers had something to do with this move?
I'll say, I'll say what Woody Johnson had to say first. Woody said he did speak with Aaron Rodgers, not about, potentially firing Saleh. I don't know if I necessarily believe that, but, that is what he said. So, again, you can take that with a grain of salt. But the fact of the matter is, because I think Aaron has a lot of power in that organization, at least right now, because otherwise I think Nathaniel Hackett probably would have been out of there a lot sooner than what he would have been, because those two are going to ride together. And then apparently if things don't work out this year, they're probably going to be out together too. So I think, Aaron had to be consulted on some level about it. I don't know if he put the decision in his hands. I doubt that. But I think, Woody had to have some, wrinklings that this potentially might happen, especially after the game. And, he's an ambassador of the UK deal. I'm sure he probably felt probably embarrassed, that,
Exactly.
the manner that, the Jets played over there. They were down 17. They did fight back to get back into the game, but ultimately it just wasn't enough. And then I think that in accumulation with happened last year, where Saleh did receive a mulligan, which, I think I was actually kind of surprised they brought him back. And then especially when Woody announced it on Christmas Eve that Saleh was coming back, I was like, don't you want to wait till after this just to see how the last few games go, just to see if the team wants to continue to fight? But he decided to bring him back. And I think at that point he was kind of pigeonholed to bring him back for at least for 2024.
I do remember that, Antwan. I was actually in my car. I was driving to the game, and I got that notification. I was like, very interesting. And they did obviously end up keeping both Robert Saleh and Joe Douglas. But you do mention Nathaniel Hackett there, and it was reported when your colleagues, Connor Hughes of SNY, he did say that if Saleh, continued, he was still in this role. One of his plans was not necessarily to fire Hackett, but decrease his game day responsibilities. And what that entailed, elevating a passing game coordinator and quarterback coach Todd Downing to be the play caller. Now, Jeff Ulbrich, you were in the press conference Zoom call, obviously, with Jeff Ulbrich. First time speaking as the official head coach of the New York Jets. He was very vague as to what he was going to do with the defensive responsibilities and the offensive responsibilities. He said, let's just give it some time. He was obviously, in the heat of the moment. Huge news today. And like you said, you weren't expecting it. I'm assuming Ulbrich wasn't expecting it either. When all's said and done, though, what do you think happens in terms of play calling? Could you see a world where Downing takes over, the play calling for the offensive side of the ball? And then as for defense, he said he's going to try what it's going to be like calling plays for defense and, handling in-game management. Could you see something, maybe Tony Oden, Aaron Whitecotton, or Marquand Manuel maybe taking over play calling for the defense? What are your thoughts there?
I think eventually, yes, but I think Albrecht. It's so new. Like he basically spoke to us like 4 hours after the fact that he got hired as interim coach. So like he hadn't really had time to make any kind of decisions. But he also said that he foresees, at least for this week, that probably everything will be status quo, which meaning like Hackett will probably still remain the primary play caller, at least for the moment. And then I imagine he'll probably continue to call defensive plays for this game. And then after that, then I think we'll see. Like they'll have some time. They'll have a short week against Pittsburgh, and then maybe New England week where it's more of a normal week. Then maybe you could see some changes being made there. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it'll happen right away, but I expect something to probably happen because now, like, if they go 2-4 potentially, or 2-3, like 2-4, 2-5, maybe you have to do something because again, the season starts to get away from you.
Antwan, Keith Carter, offensive line coach. Offensive line, obviously, they have so much talent at that position. Elijah Vera Tucker, Joe Tippmann, Tyron Smith, just to name a few. Morgan Moses, Olu Fashanu, even John Simpson has shown he could be serviceable at times. Tyron Smith, someone left tackle, he's really struggled to start his 2024 campaign. Could you see any world where Carter's maybe gone midway through the season? I know it's a bit of a surprise he was back for the 2024 season. Could you see anything where he's canned in the next week or two? Or just anything throughout the season?
Here's the problem now with starting like to try to fire people during the season. Like you have to think about who's going to replace them. And then like you're not just going to bring in somebody like from the outside to come in during the season. It would have to be somebody internally. So probably not. I would probably say no, although like everything's up for grabs at this point there. So like I wouldn't totally rule it out. Obviously, I think it's going to be some changes that are made. I just don't know if he's going to be one of them. And I don't know if he was to be fired, what does that do for you? Considering, just the offensive line, is it going to make, Tyron Smith stay on size? Like, is not have false starts, or is it going to make, the run blocking any better? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. So yeah, it's kind of hard to try to make all these moves there, especially when you're in the season. Like this is moves they should have made in the off season, because now you're behind the 8 ball, and now you're just trying to you're doing reactionary moves instead of being proactive.
Antwan, to kind of transition back to the Ulbrich stuff, obviously him taking over. Were you surprised at all that he was the interim head coach? We did see when Robert Saleh, you're shaking your head there, no, but we did see when Robert Saleh had COVID, tight end coach Ron Middleton did take over for a couple games as the head coach. So you're not surprised by Ulbrich being promoted. And how do you think? You mentioned it might take a little for the culture to change. How do you think the players really react to this move? Do you think they're excited? Do they like to play for Ulbrich? What are you thinking here?
Yeah, I think the players love Auburn. Like just speaking with the ones that I know, and I've reached out to a few of them, and they obviously a lot of them were blindsided and surprised by the move, but I think ultimately like they love Jeff Ulbrich. They will play for him, and they feel bad for Robert Saleh because ultimately it was their play on the field which really cost them Saleh's job. But yeah, I think I think he was the only choice in this situation, to be honest with you. It was either him or Hackett. And I don't, considering
Hackett,
considering he has head coordinators, and he also has correct. That's what I'm gonna say. He has head coaching experience, something that I don't think anybody else on the staff does, other than him. So it was really that choice, and I think Ulbrich is prepared for it. I was really surprised, honestly, that he didn't get any kind of coaching interviews at all during the coaching cycle last year. Which I felt like he should have gotten something, like maybe not a job, but at least a couple of interviews or something. But he, I think he's going to do a really good job there. It's just not a great situation for him, but it usually never is. So like this is his opportunity to show what he can do, and then maybe down the line he could potentially be a full-time permanent head coach. But yeah, I'm not surprised at all. I thought it was the right choice by the Jets.
Regarding Woody Johnson's comments today, he did mention Hassan Reddick, and I'll give you exactly what he said. He said, quote, "Hassan, get in your car, drive down I-95, and come to the New York Jets." Obviously, Hassan Reddick, we're sitting here. Jets are preparing for their Week 6 matchup, Monday Night Football, that will determine first place in the AFC East throughout the first 6 weeks of the season. I view Hassan right now, Antwan, as kind of a lost cause, and I think if he arrives, I think fans and the organization really needs to view that as a bonus. Could you see any world where he plays this season, or is that just a lost cause, like I said?
I would be surprised at this point. And by the way, I think Woody Johnson probably needs a geography lesson. Like he would actually be driving up 95 instead of down, but because Hassan lives kind of closer to Philadelphia in the Camden area. Not to give out too much of his business, but yeah, at this point, that's not even on your radar as the biggest problems with the Jets too. Although you would love Hassan Reddick in the building, he definitely would shore up the pass rush and defensive line there. But if he hadn't shown up by now, then what is, I don't think that's going to be the case. And then what kind of shape is he in? Like I hadn't seen him
Yep.
since he was doing his agent or workout, partner or whoever it was putting out
Exactly.
those
Yeah.
videos where he was, working out at a high school. So I don't know. Like I don't see any world where he probably plays this year, and I don't know. Like there's no telling what the Jets might be at that point. No, a month from now, they could be completely out of the playoff race. Hopefully, for our sake, and especially in print business, they're not, because again, people are continue to be interested in what we have to say and what the players have to say. But yeah, I would not hold my breath on any kind of Hassan Reddick, signing or coming together anytime soon.
One more thing before we wrap here, Antoine. The Devonte Adams talks, they've really escalated, and it feels like they kind of, they talked about a lot these past few days, and then the Salah news really, took priority today. That's what everyone was talking about. Are these Devonte rumors that we're hearing legit? And if so, when do you think is the earliest we could see him possibly play? Is it Sunday night in Pittsburgh against the Steelers? Because we know he's played under the Hackett system with Rodgers. It's not like he has to learn a whole new offense. Do you think these rumors are legit, and when could we actually see him on the field if he plays for the Jets?
Well, it's a few things. First of all, obviously, it's not a priority at the moment. They have other needs right now. So this week, I probably would just scratch off, say it's probably not going to happen. Say like next week, it's a potential it could happen, but you also keep in mind the Jets will not. They really won't have much of an off day because you're going from Monday night into immediately game planning for Pittsburgh. So it could happen on that Tuesday because it's kind of a bit of a buffer.
Yep.
But if it doesn't happen that Tuesday, it's probably not going to happen there. The problem, there's a few problems. One, I think the Raiders want more compensation than I think teams want to give them.
Yep.
So I think that's part of the issue there. And then they don't want to take on the amount of money, which I think the Jets, as far as cap, they could take on the entire contract.
Exactly.
So also like it gives them the flexibility too. If they need to blow this thing up at the end of the year, they could just release Adams because they wouldn't owe him any more guaranteed money after the season. So I think probably it is going to happen at some point. I just think fans have to be patient because it's probably not going to happen in the next week or so. It might not even happen 2 weeks from now. The trading deadline is on Election Day, November 5th. So just kind of keep that in mind there. But it would behoove the Jets for it to happen sooner rather than later because, again, you don't want the season to get away from you because you got 2 critical games against the Bills at Pittsburgh. Yeah, I even throw New England in there too because I mean they lost to the Broncos, so nothing is off
the
the
Broncos
table.
are 3-2, Antoine. I know
They
the
are.
Broncos are viewed as not a. I think their defense is very talented. Bo Nix, he obviously didn't play great against the Jets. First quarterback in the Super Bowl era to win a game, while averaging less than 2.5 yards a attempt. But I mean, they're still a 3-2 team.
No, they are. I want to give them credit. Like they have circled the wagons and become an over 500 team. But what I'm saying is when you're losing games 10-9,
yeah,
anything is like possible.
Yes.
Like
Exactly.
going up to New England and losing a ugly type game because I've seen it. Like I've witnessed it a couple of years ago. It's all possible. I'm not saying they're going to. I'm just saying you can't take the Patriots lightly, especially division rival. You never know. And you got a game against the Texans on Halloween, so it's a tough stretch for them. And they're gonna have to find a way to circle the wagons and try to make a run at it. Otherwise, then we're talking about going into November, not playing meaningful football, and I think that would disappoint a lot of people, including people in that organization.
Everyone smash that like button. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Antoine, we really appreciate you joining us here on this very, very busy day. You got any final thoughts?
Nothing. Just people can follow me at Antwan Staley on Twitter, X, and all social media platforms. Also find my work at the nydailynews.com.
Absolutely, Antoine. We really do appreciate it. Everyone, thank you guys for watching. And as always, JETS, 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 Jets.